Hello, photography students. This is Mr. Klein, and I want to give you a quick summary of our final project that we're going to be doing this semester. If you're unaware of the final project and as far as the requirements to receive a pass for the semester, please look back at some of the grading information. I posted on the stream about a week ago. It should still be there. If you have any questions about it, obviously let me know at any time. Send me an email. And I'm also expecting to put up some Zoom meetings next weekend or next week. If you have questions or if you need feedback, that's a great time to hop online. And it's a little bit easier sometimes for me to show you examples or to kind of see what you've done and for a chance for you to ask questions. So I'm going to dive over and I'm going to walk through this project and hopefully clarify things and give you some direction to get started. So give me 1 second to share my screen. Okay, so this is the Google Doc that I have posted up on Google Classroom. The final project is going to be creating a photographic narrative, which is kind of just a fancy way of saying using photograph or photography as a tool to tell a story. And that's one of the most powerful aspects of photography, is it's not only to document, what this looks like or here's an object, but to, tell a story, show emotion, capture an event. There's a lot you can do with photography that, gives that information to the viewers or tells that, shows that story to other viewers. So I'm going to dive in here quick and I'm going to kind of go through this. Starting off, the first thing at the very top is there is a video. This video is done actually by a photographer that worked for, or the director of, one of the directors for National Geographic. It's a great video. It's not real long, about 15 minutes. And he shows a lot of examples of professional photographers and how when they go out and they want to capture a story, it's more than just, here's an object, this is what it looks like. There's some extremely powerful photographs that they show and some great kind of background information about what the photographers did and what they were thinking and their process and what they went through to capture some amazing photographs. I know some of the examples in here are pretty grand or pretty epic. You may not have an opportunity to travel the world, but even right here in Two Rivers, there's a lot of opportunities to tell some very powerful stories, especially at this time we're going through now. There's a lot of things that are affecting all of our lives, and photography can be a great tool to share those with other people. So going back, as far as under the procedure, there's not a lot here. I'm leaving this project very open for you. Whatever you find or whatever topic you choose, that's perfectly fine. And I know there's going to be a huge variety, and everyone is different and everyone has different lives, going through different things. What I ask though is find something that is important to you. Find something that you're going through now, or something with your friends, your family. There's a lot of options. If you are having a hard time finding something, do some research, look online, ask your parents, ask your friends, ask your family. Take some time, put some thought into the planning of it. It'll be a lot easier to complete your photographs and continue working on this project if you have that solid idea. You have an opportunity to, get that story told. And it's nice to have a solid idea before you get started. I did put some examples up here. Don't feel like you have to choose one of those by any means. It's just something to kind of get the ball rolling and to be thinking about what you want to do for your topic. Another important part for this project is, again, photography is a powerful tool for storytelling, but it isn't if no one ever sees those photographs. So for this project, I want you to share them with others. What that means, especially now as we're all home, there's still opportunities to share these photographs. And I put some information down here as far as what you can do. Who you share them with is going to be up to you. You may just want to share them with close family. If it's something that is important to your family. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's something going on that's fairly personal. Don't feel like you have to, share that with the entire world. However, maybe you have something really neat going on in your life or something you're passionate about that you want to post it out there for everyone to see. But one requirement for this project is to, post them on Facebook or Imager or any other social media site. And I'll talk briefly at the bottom as far as how to kind of document that you've completed that. Again, as far as the requirements go for what your digital narrative is, again, watch that video. Hopefully you can glean some information from that. Feel free to ask me any questions if you're getting stuck or if you don't know where to go. Again, next week I am planning to host some Zoom meetings. They are optional, but if you're really stuck and you're lost and you don't know where to go, definitely hop in and we can look up some ideas and some examples, and hopefully I can help you get started with this project. So continuing down in this document, the next section that I put up here were just some concepts to consider. This project is a summative project of everything that we've talked about this entire semester. So you can see I mentioned things like our composition concepts we worked with, from the one center of interest, the rule of thirds, and so on. When it gets to the camera and the different settings and the controls that we worked with throughout the semester, things like depth of field and shutter speed, I know you may have some limited access to changing that shutter speed or changing the depth of field. I know with taking these photographs kind of with whatever camera you have access to, some of you may only have access to your phone, but keep those into consideration. Think about different things you can do with shutter speed. Can you do a slow shutter speed photograph or a fast shutter speed photograph? It's kind of up to you to decide, and every project and every narrative is going to be a little bit different. So continuing on past the technical aspects, you can see I did put down post-processing. Using Photoshop if you still have access to it. There's Pixlr. I also highly recommend Photopea.com. It's not the initial program. I know initially we did talk more about Pixlr, but Photopea I kind of found later on, and it's a really great alternative to Photoshop. It's very, very similar, and it actually has a lot of the same tools and functions as Photoshop. So moving down, I did put kind of a list of the requirements. And again, I'm leaving a lot of this open because all of you are going to have very different narratives that you're going to create. You can see I do have a rubric below, and I'll get there in a minute. So the final challenge is basically a series of displayed photographs. I did put down somewhere about between 4 to 10. That's a pretty wide range. Some stories, it may be easier to have a few more photographs. If you make something that's maybe a timeline and some things are happening over the course of time, that's fine. But 4 to 10 is a pretty wide range. When you're finished with those photographs, also be sure to upload those to Google Classroom, just individually. I like seeing the details, and it's easier for me to see everything in your photographs if they're a little bit larger. So upload those photographs to Google Classroom. Then you can see in there, we talked about the narrative, we talked about the photography composition, we talked about the technical skill, all of that's listed up above. And then an important part, as I mentioned earlier, is I do want you to present or display these in some way that other people are able to see it. And again, you can use social media. If you have access to a printer and you want to display them physically in a frame, on a wall, on your refrigerator, whatever, that is also an option for you as well. Obviously, I don't have any access to print your photographs right now during this time. So posting them digitally or using social media is probably going to be a pretty common option. And it really does work well to share that photograph and share your stories with people around you that you know. If you do need help with using one of those programs, or if you're not big on social media and you don't know where to go with that, I know there's places like Imager that you just make an account and you can post photographs. Again, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to help you out. The final thing down here under our requirements is the reflection or an artist statement. Now, an artist statement is just kind of another way to say you get a chance to kind of explain what you did and why you did it, and also your process. So what did you go through to come up with your final project or your final narrative? And you can see I have a small list here. Just again, ultimately, it's to provide insight on your final project. The story, the narrative, some photographs or some narratives may be very clear. Others, people may look at the photographs and kind of question, like, how do these go together? What story are you trying to tell? It may be something a little bit more personal that not everyone understands at face value. So this artist statement or this reflection is there to kind of help people understand, the why. Why did you take the photographs that you did? It's also to talk a little bit about the photography composition, the editing that you did, or just anything else that you came up with and the thought and planning that you put into your digital narrative. I do want you to include this with your presentation. In other words, if you do go in and make a Facebook album and maybe you only want to share it with your family, have that information there somewhere. Instead of just posting the pictures and letting everyone figure out, that artist statement or reflection is an important aspect of that. And I did include a link. If you need more information or want more information, feel free to check out that website. It's a pretty quick, pretty easy website that just kind of gives you a little bit more information if you're kind of stuck or need some help getting going with an artist statement. All right, so moving on to the last part of this. And again, I talked briefly about this project. When it's completed, will allow you to receive a pass in this class for the semester. Again, this project kind of hits all the important concepts. If I had to sum up this class into just 4 different categories, this project covers them all. So it's kind of like a final exam, but it's not technically a final exam. It's just that kind of final test to make sure that the basics, you understand the basics. So I'm going to not go through this entire thing. Feel free to read through it all when you have a chance or if you have time. But in order to receive a pass for the semester, your project needs to fall into these 2 green columns for each category. So let's say your composition is great, your camera use is great, your editing software is great, but communication falls outside of this green. Maybe it's way down here, which is not ideal. I will contact you. I'll give you feedback in Google Classroom saying, is there anything you can go back and maybe revisit one of these sections? That doesn't mean you redo the whole project, but maybe you need to include a little bit more editing or have your artist statement or your reflection. Maybe it's not there or missing. So I may ask you to kind of revisit any of these 4 categories. Again, ultimately at the end of the semester, I know all of you will be able to get into this green category. So the main categories that I have is the composition. Again, we talked quite a bit about that already. You can see there's a couple different categories that are acceptable for your level of composition if you're shooting for that A or B in the class for the semester. Again, to really excel and to master that idea of photography composition, you have that option. There's also just the proficiency or basically I understand it and can demonstrate that concept. The camera use, and this I'm going to have some leeway. I know not all of you have access to, the cameras that you had while we were at school. I understand that. That's perfectly fine. But do what you can with what you have. Editing software. Again, using a website like Photopea or Pixlr, or if you have access to Photoshop, it's expected that if your photographs need that editing, if they need color or contrast or levels, or maybe doing a little touching up with a stamp, take some time, put some effort into your final photographs here, and do what you need to with them. Understand that not every photograph may need some editing. Maybe a little cropping or a little touching up is all it needs, and do what you need to with your project. And the final thing is the communication. And again, that's where photography is a really powerful tool to, tell a story, show emotion, express mood. There's a lot that can be done with photography. And that whole communication aspect is through telling your narrative. And again, what that means for you may be very different than what it means for others. depending on the topic and what you have access to and your subject matter. And I'm leaving that kind of a little bit up to your interpretation. Have some fun with it. Take some time, think about ideas, ask your family, get them to help you out a little bit. That's great. And kind of enjoy the project. And again, hopefully you end up with a kind of powerful series that really can express, or really tell a story. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. I want to switch my screen sharing over here for a second. Hope you're all doing well. And again, keep an eye on Google Classroom as far as I will be posting some meetings out there. If you have questions or concerns, or you read over this and you're like, I have no idea what's going on, stop in, ask for help. I am more than happy to help you out anytime, either by email or through a Zoom meeting. So thank you. Have a good day.